Rick Horrow, inside the boardroom, beyond the scoreboard, and we are at the 10th annual Prime Time Sports Conference as we've been, and it's usually the who's who in Canadian sports. We have a difference here. This is a who's who in global sports. He's been Raptors, he's been Maple Leafs, he's been the Toronto FC, MLSE. Anything you want to talk about vertically integrated sports in Toronto and by inference everywhere on the globe, Richard Peddie, how's that for an intro?
That's really good.
You like that?
I'm going to bring you everywhere I speak.
No,
I'm
no.
speaking on Thursday. Come on down to
No,
Windsor.
you're not, because we talked beforehand about your lousy golf game. I don't want it to rub off on me, okay? So that's the
Very
deal.
contagious.
Yeah, I understand. So first of all, 6 years away from your masterful career in sports business, reflect back on it and kind of give us a couple bits of wisdom or advice about the enduring principles of those years.
Well, the interesting story with me was I was a big basketball junkie, couldn't play worth a lick. Piston fan, I lived outside of Detroit. And I wrote down in a journal when I was 20 that I wanted to run a basketball team.
Wow. Did anybody see it at the time? Just
No,
you?
other than my girlfriend, who I wrote it in a journal.
Oh, okay.
I still have the journal. And 29 years later, I did. And then I took over, we created Maple Leaf Sports when the Leafs bought us. And then I just, you start adding to it. I had this dream for one team, and then I have a dream for building this totally integrated colossus with, 4 sports teams, 2 broadcast divisions, numerous facilities. And it was just, first of all, I got my ticket punched to get the job, and then I just kept really working at it to build the job.
Vision and tenacity. Obviously, the people with capital supported you, but only if you brought the vision and convinced people of that vision.
Yeah, it's, I say if your board's not approving about 85% of what you recommend, they've got the wrong CEO. So we brought ideas. When I went to them with soccer, like soccer had failed in this market tons of times, but I talked them into it. Maple Leaf Square, I talked them into it. Television, it actually, we came up with an idea, only probably Man U did. We had a television channel devoted to a basketball team and another one to a hockey team. Quite unique at the time, but the board bought it and it all worked, and we grew enterprise value 6 times.
You forgot Air Canada Center.
Yeah, well, that was the first thing on our map.
Yeah, but the whole idea of the vertical integration, some had done it at Snyder and others, but it wasn't the prevailing trend. What's the biggest selling point about that whole venture looking back?
Well, it was a lot of synergies. So we had one CFO for all of that and one CEO for all of that. And we had our own hockey experts and basketball experts and soccer experts. We could get all those great synergies over all of the business side and cross-sell. So when I brought Toronto FC to town, I've got 2 television channels to advertise them on. I've got a video board. I've got season ticket lists. I'm cross-selling like crazy. We already spent any money and sold out within a couple months.
I know this is too broad, but this is perfect for this kind of conference. What are the biggest similarities and differences in the business broadly defined from when you started to today?
Well, when I started in '89, I got the job at Skydome, and I remember the headhunter said, "Why should we hire you?" And I said, "Not because I know anything about facilities, but I spent 19 years in consumer products, Colgate, Pillsbury, Green Giant, and in the brand disciplines, the market research disciplines, the sales and service stuff that I really thought could apply." And I convinced them to hire me on that basis, and that was 1989. Now you look forward, the leagues are so sophisticated. The best practices that Adam Silver makes sure gets cross-pollinated, and Gary Bettman, it's much more sophisticated now. I mean, we've heard everything from media today to analytics on the business side, so much more sophisticated.
What's the greatest threat to the industry today?
Well, short of a awful, horrific terrorist attack, David Stern always said that could be a game changer in a full stadium. And so anyhow, we'll park that off to the side.
Right.
It's just the change. There's so many disruptors, hotels, taxis. Is there a disruptor waiting for this industry that we don't even know about? We're seeing it in the media side, but is there something else out there? I don't know.
Let's talk about media for a second. Media today is a lot different than media used to be. Now media is not TV, it's cord cutting, it's not cord cutting. You write a contract today about media rights and the definitions are changed so totally. Where's it going?
Well, I don't know. I think what's really interesting is the NFL and the NBA player salaries are so dependent on these big new deals they've signed. When they come up for renewal in 7 years or so, what's going to happen with maybe over the top and these others, Twitters and the Facebooks, but it will fill the void, but maybe they won't. And what will happen to all of the player salaries as individuals and collectively under a collective bargaining agreement, that could be a real disruptor in 7 years.
1977, back when you were young and I was still ancient, we were talking about Andy Messersmith and free agency and how that would kill baseball, and then we had salary increases and television rights. So I guess not being cynical, but just listening to it, what's different this time? Why are the rights fees not going to be there when they've been there for so long?
Well, that could be, but things have a. I ran industries where I would build a factory because sales were going like this, and I used to think that okay, instead of going up like this, they'll just even off. I found that when they slowed down, they stopped and they actually declined. Change can happen so quickly. Again, disruptors. There are always disruptors. I sold Tang flavor crystals. That was a huge business.
Yeah.
You cannot find that product.
Didn't we take Tang to the moon like
we
50
did.
years ago?
We did.
Right.
Well, you did, the Americans. I sold Sanka coffee.
Uh-huh.
Market leaders don't exist today.
Yeah.
Things can happen in the world today.
Yeah, well, and the bottom line is, those who succeed are those who prepare, but your message is, we don't know what's going to happen.
Well,
so it's
you're
hard
still going to prepare. You're still learning. You're
Yeah.
still curious. And it's not going to just fall off a cliff. You're going to see it coming. And how do you respond to it? How are you proactive and progressive?
Are we appealing to the fans enough, the fan experience, the whole decouching stadium versus television? How do you get them off the couch? Are you satisfied as the fan being the number one priority is going to be well served years from now?
Well, the arenas are constantly improving themselves.
Sure.
Sound, seating, amenities. In fact, you wonder, at Skydome, our video board was so big, you found yourself not watching the game, you found yourself watching the video board.
Yeah.
And I worry that pretty soon you've added so many amenities, you forget about the game. And that kind of concerns me. It's an entertainment evening as opposed to, do you really care about the team? You need that fan avidity. It's not entertainment avidity, it's fan avidity, so let's not lose that.
And fan avidity is directly related to the quality of the team, directly related to the facility as well. The whole public-private partnership issue, we just came out of a spirited lunch debate on the issue. I was right and you were wrong. That is not the case. But in the whole idea of public financing for facilities, I know position is that in the right circumstances, it's okay, but it's not always okay for the right circumstances. So give us your perspective.
Well, again, it depends on the league, it depends on the city, it depends on the sport, on the actual team. As I said in the debate, things are changing in cities right now. Poverty, affordable housing, transit's wearing out, infrastructure's wearing out. There's lots of demands, and I believe the owners are going to have to step up and pay more of their own, especially when so many of them are doing so well. Maybe not on the operating profit, but an enterprise value. I mean, if you believe Forbes, an NFL franchise is worth $2.5 billion today.
On average.
Yeah, on average.
Right.
And 7 years ago, it was $1 billion.
Yeah.
Who has 150% increase and so when you're having that kind of a growth, and I think you mentioned it, if someone gets a new stadium and then flips the team because they got the lift from the new stadium, there's something wrong with that. I think the owners have to step up with more money.
All right, so basically, you're known as the Abe Lincoln of Canadian sports. How's that? I just made that up, but it sounds pretty good.
I just finished a book on him. So,
he was pretty good. It's not a bad analogy. So now we
there's nobody I have to emancipate though.
No, not now. Not now. Your career has already been great. But if you have a choice, let's assume they're all winning, or they're all going to win a game. If you had a choice of going to Blue Jays, Raptors, Leafs, Toronto FC, where would you go?
Well, I wrote down that I wanted to run a basketball team.
Yeah,
when
right.
I ran all those teams, people would ask me the same question.
Yeah.
I said, it's like your children, you can't pick between them.
Yeah, but now you're not running them anymore.
It's basketball.
Ah, okay. There's some truth. What is next for Richard Peddie?
I'm very involved kind of politically and in the community. We've got a great city here. My whole social media for a better Toronto. I think we're supposed to be one of the most livable cities in the world. In many ways we're not, and I think we can be.
Well, I find it really appropriate that as Richard Peddie describes his future, a halo. His son. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, what can I tell you? That's it.
That's true.